The Cleveland Browns clinched their spot in the 2023-24 NFL playoffs with a win over the New York Jets in Week 17 on Thursday Night Football with a final score of 37-20 at home for the Browns. Joe Flacco was 19 for 29 for 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Jerome Ford had 12 carries for 64 yards, and David Njoku had 6 catches for 134 yards in his own right. And Njoku, by the way, his average reception went for 22.3 yards. So every time he caught the ball, you know he was going a long way, with a majority of those yards being after the catch. And this Browns performance was very encouraging heading into the playoffs. And although the offense had their fair share of mistakes, right? And Njoku fumbled, Joe Flacco had a pass tipped that ended up being taken back for a touchdown for the Jets. So they made their fair share of mistakes, but those were compensated for by the defense. The defense sort of bailed out the offense, especially later on in the game as their production on offense declined. The defense, the best example of this is David Njoku. He fumbled in Jets territory. The Jets get the ball back. They have the opportunity to make this a 1-score game, and it's a 3-and-out because the Browns defense they forced 3rd and 8, and there's really nothing the Jets could do. The overwhelming Browns defense gave the ball back to Cleveland, where Joe Flacco in that offense was able to get the ball back into the Jets' red zone and ultimately score. And so, like I said, the Browns offense, it was not perfect, but especially early on, they had a very strong game plan on offense, and that was, complemented by a defense that was not letting the Jets get any freebies. And I talked about the fact that I felt like Cleveland's prepared for this game very, very well. You have Joe Flacco at quarterback. He, of course, is not your starter. Deshaun Watson is out at the end of the season. Joe Flacco takes over. He's not Superman, right? He's not Deshaun Watson where he can run around, or Patrick Mahomes where he can run around for 30 yards and scramble and make a play in the 15th second of it, lasting as a play. He's not going to do anything like that. And he's not like Aaron Rodgers where he can, you can expect him to throw some 80-yard bomb, right? Joe Flacco is not at all Superman, but he's thrived in this environment in Cleveland in part because of the team around him. And don't get me wrong, Joe Flacco has been amazing on his own, but he's sort of helped by the fact that he has this team around him where you have a strong running game despite Nick Chubb's injury. Jerome Ford has been great. You have David Njoku and some other receivers that have come up clutch here, and of course that defense is going to bail you out and really help you out there, where if you do make a mistake, the defense should be able to 9 times out of 10 come up clutch and give you the ball back with the opportunity to create an opportunity there. And on top of that, the game is schemed very well and coached very well, and in this game especially, you're not asking Joe Flacco to be Superman. The majority of his, positive yards and those big gains were through underneath routes with great yards after catch from Njoku and some other receivers. You look at Elijah Moore and even Jerome Ford in some situations there. And so, Joe Flacco through those underneath routes and David Njoku with some great yards after catch, that was really what the Browns primarily leaned on in this game. And as well as that, you look at, there's moments where it's 1st and 10 and Jerome Ford has some 8 or 9 yard run to really get the drive going or keep it going or really fuel those long drives so you can get all the way down to the red zone and ultimately score the majority of the time. 37 points on the board for the Cleveland Browns. One of those was a defensive score with a pick 6 off of a really bad interception from Trevor Siemian on the Jets. But this Cleveland offense, it was great, and despite the fact that it made mistakes, the defense was able to come through for them and ultimately dominate an opponent like the New York Jets, who they're not going to make the playoffs, but they're not a terrible team. They have a great defense, and unfortunately, with Trevor Siemian at quarterback, there wasn't going to be much that they could do. That defense and the offense, they work together very well. It's a perfect combination. The Browns won this game, and they are going to be a huge threat in January. Everyone should be scared of this Cleveland Browns team with that overwhelming defense, with that defense that's very difficult to push past and get down the field in those long drives, right? You force yourself into 3rd and 9 situations quite a bit, and that was something the Jets struggled with, where when you have 3rd and long, Trevor Siemian isn't going to be able to do much for you, right? The Browns got good pressure on him, forcing him to sort of make some rush decisions, and he's just not the type of quarterback that is going to be able to make plays out of nothing, and the Browns absolutely took advantage of that and capitalized on that as much as they possibly could. And now you look at the Browns, where they're probably going to be the 5 seed. They're going to the playoffs for sure. They're probably going to be the 5 seed. They are probably going to go on the road to play maybe the Jaguars or the Colts or the Texans, whoever comes out of that log jam at the top of the AFC South. And you look at this 4-game win streak with Joe Flacco. They do make mistakes. They do have weaknesses, but their flaws are covered up by the defense or the offense, special teams, whatever it is. They had a field goal block in this game. They had another near field goal block. They had, 2 that were at least close. One of them ultimately, they ended up connecting and stopping 3 points from coming onto the board for the New York Jets. And so this team all around, if one leg is sort of unstable, right? If one pillar of this team is cracking a little bit, the other sides, the other aspects of this game for the Cleveland Browns are able to compensate for that. And that's a very encouraging sign of an all-around complete team heading into the postseason, where you're going to play great teams out of the way. They have a 4-game win streak. They're looking to make it 5 and potentially, end up in a situation where they can beat the AFC South champion and build up some more momentum and maybe take this team all the way to February. I would not be surprised if they were able to do it. Now, on the flip side for the Jets, Trevor Siemian was at quarterback. He was 32 for 45 for 261 yards, a touchdown and an interception. They got in the end zone once, and that touchdown, by the way, was a sort of a dumped off pass to Breece Hall, and he took it the rest of the way. So that touchdown isn't necessarily totally credited to Trevor Siemian, realistically. And the fact that Siemian is a quarterback for the Jets really is limiting at this point, and they weren't necessarily by any means favored to win this game or expected to win this game. It was close at the beginning, but there's really nothing you can do, where if you get forced into a 3rd and 8 situation, the drive is pretty much over, because the Browns are going to get good pressure on you and you're going to have to make a quick decision. And the Browns defense is just too dominant and too overwhelming for the Jets to navigate in this game, and for many other teams to navigate in this entire season, especially when you have Trevor Siemian at quarterback. He wasn't bad in this game, but by any means, he wasn't terrible, but he's just not Aaron Rodgers, and he's not even Joe Flacco, or someone that's going to be able to win you a game against a team with a much better roster, much better everything going on. Cleveland is better than what we have with the New York Jets, especially considering the fact that Aaron Rodgers is out. They couldn't get a good drive going. They got in the end zone one time early on in the game, and that was great. But once the Browns defense sort of settled in and figured out the Jets and figured out what they were going to do to stop them, there was really nothing that Trevor Siemian and this New York Jets team could do. They couldn't put a good drive together, especially through the air. Breece Hall was the workhorse for this Jets team. He had 13 carries for 84 yards, and on top of that, 9 receptions for 42 more yards, and that touchdown with some great yards after the catch. So Breece Hall was really the only thing keeping this Jets team in the game, besides a couple nice breaks with their defense getting an interception that turned into a pick 6 off of that tipped pass. But at the end of the day, this Jets offense didn't have much going for them, and Cleveland game plans better, and they came into this game more efficiently, working together on offense to infiltrate the Jets defense, ultimately get to the red zone and score. For the Jets, we didn't have very high expectations of them, especially after the injury to Aaron Rodgers. So really, you're just looking ahead to next year, right? They were 7-10 last season. They're 6-10 right now, with hopes of getting one more win for the road to match their 2022 final regular season record, and then move forward into 2024 with Aaron Rodgers back, maybe with the opportunity to put together a strong playoff run if Rodgers stays healthy, if Breece Hall stays healthy, if this entire team really stays healthy with a young defense, that they have potential and they have something to work with for 2024. But for now, we're just waiting for next year with the New York Jets. But the Browns, on the other hand, like I said, they could absolutely be a Super Bowl contender at this point in the season. We talked about the fact that they have a shot for the number 1 seed. The Ravens play the Dolphins, and the schedule's not getting any easier for Baltimore. Cleveland has an opportunity to get the number 1 seed because the Ravens play the Dolphins, and then the Dolphins turn around and play the Bills in the last week of the year. There's key opportunities for losses with these top teams moving forward. The Browns have a shot at the number 1 seed. I don't think they'll get it. I think they'll be in the playoffs, be the 5 seed, win a playoff game, and then we'll see what happens from there and where they can take it. But it's a scary team. Any team that's firing on all cylinders like this, where even if you're making a significant amount of mistakes on offense, the defense is there to come through for you, or the special teams, or vice versa, whatever it is, it's an all-around complete team in Cleveland. and they are very scary moving forward as we get into the postseason.